Membership means more with American Express Business Gold. Earn 4 times membership rewards points in your top 2 eligible spending categories every month, including eligible U.S. advertising purchases and select media, and U.S. purchases at restaurants, including takeout and delivery. What are you waiting for? Get the card that flexes with your spending every month. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
So good, so good, so good.
Great brands, great prices. Everyone's got a reason to rack.
Because they have framed jeans.
Nike? Yes.
Just so many good brands.
Vince, Kurt Geiger London, Rag & Bone, and more are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. You never know what you'll find, but you know it's going to be so good. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a very special edition of 49ers First Takes live on YouTube with the always awesome and incredibly giving with his time, Sterling Bennett of 49er Access. We're going to go over some 49er offseason topics as we get close to the combine and free agency next month, from the Devondre Campbell situation to the Deebo Samuel and 49ers looking like a mutual parting is on its way. A little salary cap talk and much more. So hope everybody is along for the ride and they're seated and belted into their seats because this is going to be awesome. I can't wait. Sterling, how you doing, man?
I'm excited. Me and my wife went to Costco, got ourselves some Kansas City pork ribs. Gonna pop those in the oven. I am stoked to be on with you today, Aaron, to talk some San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, it's I told myself after the season, especially after this season, that I'm not going to do any content until March. But then, like, there's always 49ers
back in.
They so my StreamYard account, I thought I canceled it. It re-upped itself. So I got I spent $45 on something I didn't want to spend it on. So I might as well use it. I'm back here with you, which is always awesome because you're a busy dude. So anytime I can lock you down is always great. I see you on with Dre Area Sports all the time, and I'm a little jealous, I must say. So I was able to snatch you away for at least one evening. So I'm cool with that. I guess we could talk anything really. There's a pretty good amount of news going on. I guess the first thing we could talk about is the salary cap. The salary cap recently, it was reported that is going to be going up some $25 million from last season, from the mid 250s, from anywhere from like 275 to 281, something around there. So a pretty good jump. The Niners have at this moment about $50 million in cap to play with. Of course, we know the Brock Purdy situation and the deal. Hopefully that's imminent. But the Niners, free agency's coming up and all that stuff. So what's your take on the news that the salary cap is increased, and does it give you any inkling that the 49ers could be active in free agency?
Well, when you look at the numbers exactly, San Francisco jumped from roughly $43 million in cap space all the way to 50 in one day. So when you add roughly $7 million of cap space, it's hard not to get excited and say, what can they do now? They have some extra money to spend. Right. My instant gut reaction was, okay, great. Dre Greenlaw will come back. They had the money, or at least they can make those like depth chart moves you like to insulate the offensive line, or if they want to spend on one big name, Drew Dalman being one of the bigger ones, people want to have him this year in San Francisco. They can do that now. It also gives you a little more cushion once the Brock Purdy money hits the books. Now, people say the cap hit goes down this year. That's fine. That's true. And it's kind of, whatever, but he's still going to see an increase in pay, right? He'll make roughly $5 million this year currently. I'm going to assume his cap hit will be somewhere around 6 or 7. Like it was already, his cap hit was so low already, it can only go up, right? So it gives you more cushion. And it really, well, it's not going to get you overly excited. It certainly should give you some, at least pause to say, maybe if they want to get aggressive, they have some more money to go out there and make a move this offseason.
Yeah, I was hoping they would be. I mean, from some of the earlier reports of what the cap might be until recently, where you get a little bit more of a accurate estimate. I was hoping they would be somewhat reasonably active in free agency. I wouldn't, the T. Higgins talk, everybody gets excited,
My goodness.
but that was unrealistic. It's just not going to happen. The Niners have so many other pressing needs. They're not going to add a number one wide receiver to the mix. They have the list of priorities in the 49ers offseason is really long, and T. Higgins, which it would be awesome, right? Like if Madden, if you could turn the salary cap off on Madden and do such things, that's great, but that's not reality. So, I mean, I look at it, the Dahlman signing seems like an intelligent one. Drafting a center doesn't seem like something Kyle Shanahan doesn't like rookies anyways. And could you entrust a rookie center with this already kind of established line with a fourth-year quarterback? I don't think so. There's some interesting players out there. I know the Dolphins are not bringing back, I don't think, safety. I forget his name. It's Javon Holland. There's names like that out there. There's some pass rushers that, some people are, thinking of, maybe not Nick Bosa. Oh my God, Joey Bosa. Just some kind of, I wouldn't say middle of the road signings, but I don't feel the Niners are going to be hyper aggressive. But it's cool to see that they can make some, B-level moves to, lock down some roster spots that maybe they don't think in the draft they can do that with. So I'm okay with all that. But I just don't see them. That the Niners don't go into free agency and splash. It's just not their MO. So who knows what they're going to do? We're always excited, right? When the ticker starts filling up with all the things that are happening during free agency.
Oh, of course.
Even though we know the Niners aren't always super active, we always get really excited. And there's fake reports that come out like, oh, the Niners are going to sign so-and-so. And it's, a player that we can only dream of having. So, but we'll see. Free agency is still about 3 weeks away. So we'll see.
Yeah, they have till like March 12th is when the new league year starts. I do wonder though, with that new, I guess you can say $7 million-ish in cushion they just got with the salary cap increase, they can negotiate extensions with Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga in that time. Well, I don't think either one of those guys comes back next year, although I would say Greenlaw is more likely than Hufanga. I do wonder if that makes them a little more aggressive in getting one of those players' deals done to avoid hitting the open market. We can debate all day, what Dre Greenlaw's worth on the open market. I do wonder if that money maybe could entice Greenlaw to come back, maybe give him more incentives to return next year, which all indications kind of show that he may want to go be the linebacker on a different team, whether it's Washington or Atlanta or Tennessee or somewhere else, who knows? I just wonder if, when you get $7 million to spend, albeit it isn't a lot of money, you can avoid some of your own free agents or your impending free agents hitting the open market. I wonder if they go that route. They don't add somebody, they just bring somebody back before free agency begins in about, 15 days or so.
The 49ers have always been a team that doesn't spend a lot in free agency, but they bring back a lot of their own guys. They're about rewarding their own players and bringing them back. That's been the MO since John and Kyle have been here for the most part. I thought the report was telling, I don't know if it was Barros or Kawakami, I forget exactly who reported it, essentially saying it's a good chance Greenlaw has played his last game as a 49er. We do not foresee him or Hufanga coming back. And I was just like, wow, we didn't even get to free agency to at least, question or have that question in our minds. Is he going to stay? Is he going to take big money? Is someone going to offer him big money?
It's weird.
Coming off of a really injured, he's an injury-plagued guy. I mean, he's been really great for the 49ers when he's been available, but an Achilles is not something to play with, right? So it was really weird that that statement came out so early, right after the Super Bowl. It could have been during the Super Bowl. I don't even remember when it was. What'd you make of that when you heard that? It's a pretty much foregone conclusion. He's not coming back. Don't remember who reported it, but it was was like gospel. Like, oh wow, I guess
I
that's it.
I think it was Barros on KNBR, and it was weird too because we've had this offseason where Barros says something, and I love Matt Barros. He does great
So
work
do
with the
I.
Athletic.
And then
Like
Mayoka.
he says something, and then the next day, after we're taking it as we're all doing our YouTube videos and our podcasts, and we're all writing on it saying, this is going to happen. Kyle Shanahan going to the combine, which to his, I guess, to his credit, he didn't say it was in stone. However, the next day, Mayoko says it's not happening and things change. And we all say, well, what's actually going on? So there has been some back and forth in regards to, what is true and out there. And again, no knock on Matt Barrows whatsoever. He reported this, and I'm hoping things can change. I'm hoping that it's not true, because I think we all love Dre Greenlaw and want to get him back in the red and gold next year. However, if everything he says is true, and he wants to be his own man somewhere else, he's going to get paid top dollar. I have a hard time believing that, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong too. I look at it and say, look, if the Niners really have to have a hard cap of where they're not going to go over with Dre Greenlaw. He's a player that has been injured, not a lot, but in recent years, it's serious injuries, right? It's the calf and Achilles. Now it's the calf and Achilles again, maybe. And there's concerns like you can't fork over $10-12 million to a linebacker like that and say, hey, be our guy, when deep down it's one play and it's over. And it could be over not for 1 year, but the entire career. When you blow two Achilles, your career may be over forever. And that's despite modern medicine being so good. But I think there's going to be a hard cap for Greenlaw. If it was me, I wouldn't go over $7 to $8 million per year. It'd be an incentive-laden deal. You want to earn 12 a year? Fine, go out there and play and earn it. We'll give you to it. Like, we want to give you that money, but we can't just guarantee you that. So I also don't know which team would give him that big of a deal. To kind of push back on Barrow's report, which again could be very much correct, I have a hard time believing teams that maybe even want to sign Dre Greenlaw say, yeah, sign me up for a 3-year, $36 million deal. Like, who's doing that?
You can't do that. You have to get the medicals first. Because, I mean, he didn't even make it through a full game when he came back, and he was already out again.
He played 34 snaps, one half in one game, then 4 snaps in the next game. Then it was, coach, come get me, which stinks, but like that's the reality of a 28-year-old Dre Greenlaw. He may never be the same again.
Yeah, and he plays a certain way, kind of like Debo on offense, and people are like, yeah, but they're so young. I'm like, yeah, but their play style is not conducive to a long career, so...
Exactly.
It's unfortunately that's just how it goes in athletics sometimes, especially, real man sport like hockey or football. Nothing like the NBA, where they,
flopping at 12 years old.
Yeah, they're already learning how to flop, and they don't want to participate, load management, all that stuff. So
well, meanwhile, the NHL's out there playing the 4 Nation series, and they're fighting 3 different times in the first 30 seconds of the match, and you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah, you can say what you want about the NFL and it's rigged and all this and that. Every game matters in the National Football League. I know this is like a weird off-topic rant, but every game matters in the NFL. You have to win every game. Seeding is so important. Philly crushed it in the playoffs. Why? They were at home. Kansas City at home. Both teams made the 1 seed on both sides made the Super Bowl. So, for a guy that grew up during the 90s as a teenager and grew up through the Jordan era, how the mighty have fallen, man, since Kobe retired. It's just not the same anymore. But anyways, speaking of players that play tough and might have a short career and could be the end for him, at least as a 49er, is the Deebo Samuel situation. It looks like it's a mutual parting on both sides. It looks like Deebo didn't feel like he was getting enough touches last year. There's definitely some bad blood going on Deebo's side. And from a lot of reports of people that are connected with the 49ers, again, a guy like Kawakami, he believes that both sides are moving on, and there's no question he's gone. So what's your take on how it kind of ended, kind of in this kind of bitter, kind of pissy, like back and forth between him and the 49ers?
the season was weird in itself, right? You began with Debo's in the best shape. He looks awesome. Oh my, he's going to break out. And we all kind of bought into that. At least I did, seeing him in person. He looked rejuvenated. He looked like a new player, a guy that while coming into, maybe a contract year for him now, it seems like that's the case. He had something to prove that, look, I was hurt in the playoffs. I didn't do my job. I not in a way held the team back, but like I have more to offer to this team than what I've shown the last couple of years. And I think for Debo, that was the hope. That was what he planned on doing this year, but for a variety of reasons, not all his fault, things fell apart. And I think for a player like Debo that has always been, not to say emotional, but certainly rides the wave of, okay, when we're good, I'm feeling great. When we're bad and we stink, like I get a little fidgety and I can kind of act up a little bit, and not in like a super harmful way. He isn't going out there and, beating somebody up, but, in the locker room and on social media, he's doing things, where's this coming from? I have a hard time believing that his relationship with Kyle by any means is tarnished. I think a lot of this is Kyle saying, no, I love Debo. Debo's my guy. Like, Kyle seems to be one of the only people, if you believe what Kawakami was saying in his report for the SF Standard, that Kyle's been one of the few people to keep defending Debo. Meanwhile, you have John Lynch or other front office people saying like, dude, he doesn't have it anymore. This is the final straw. The camel's back is broken. It's time to move on. And I think, not to say Kyle would fight on this, but Debo Samuel requesting a trade during exit interviews and then kind of, I guess you could say, like officially putting his, I guess in a way, call it a stamp of approval on it on Super Bowl Sunday. It felt like kind of a bitter ex-girlfriend trying to get ahead of the breakup. Like, nope, I broke up with you. It was me. I broke up with you. Like, nope. To kind of hold some pride. And I don't know about you, but like my feelings of Debo Samuel are somewhat tainted now. Not a lot, but definitely like I'm okay with you leaving. Like I'm good as a player, but also like as a person, as the
you were
emotions
pretty.
you
I
had
saw
this
your
year.
tweet. You were pretty much like, you can get out of here. You can go. See ya.
Yeah, like just leave. Like awesome, thumbs up. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. But shake the hands and walk away. Right? Like I'm good.
I think
I'm
there's,
done with Debo
like you
Samuel.
said, there's two camps. There's Kyle, who's insanely loyal to guys that produce for him.
Yeah.
And then there's the football side. It's a business.
Yeah.
He's diminishing returns on a very expensive investment. And John Lynch is looking at it, unfortunately, from the business side, and players take it personally. Players took it personally in the 80s when the 49ers were moving on from guys early. Like a Dwight Clark and other players were like, I can still play.
Yeah.
And yeah, you probably could, but we're trying to get ahead of this. Now we've brought in your replacement. Goodbye. That's pretty much what's going on. And I feel like he's taking it personally. Maybe he's into his feelings a little bit. But like, that's just the way the business goes. And I don't understand, where, like you said, where this all is coming from. He opened his mouth during the season and complained that he wasn't getting touches. And then when he got touches, he choked, he underperformed. So it's just best for all sides. During no point of this season did I say Debo's back. He's the old Debo. I felt from jump last season that the Debo Samuel that we knew from 2 seasons ago is never coming back. And we just got to accept it and look for a replacement who's way cheaper and probably way healthier. So
there's always a winner and a loser in a relationship. Like once the breakup happens, obviously depends on what happens next, whether San Francisco is somewhat successful or whether Debo Samuel fails or whatnot with his next team. I do wonder, like the pulse that I'm trying to get from the Niner fan base, like people seem to be very mixed on the potential departure of Debo Samuel, right? Some still, no, it's Debo, it's 2021. Like they had this emotional connection to him, which is fine. Whereas others are like, good riddance, goodbye. Like you in a way are holding this team back. I think I fall somewhere towards the latter, albeit maybe in a more kind manner. But when I think of, who wins and who loses from the departure, I don't think Debo Samuel wins from leaving the
No.
San Francisco 49ers. But I think San Francisco wins from Deebo Samuel leaving the San Francisco 49ers this offseason.
I think a lot of us who love him are hanging on to sentiment.
Yeah.
And we're letting it blind our realistic takes on a situation. You know, when a player who was great for your franchise, and that could be anybody, you know, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, like Jerry Rice at the end of his career, he wasn't Jerry Rice anymore. T.O. was the man. And yeah, it seems really disloyal that the 49ers, you know, would do him like that, but that's just the business of football, and that's how it goes. It's all about being sentimental with players at the expense of losing is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. And players, they say they know it's a business and they understand it, but then when it actually happens to them, there's always seems to be like, yeah, there's some sour grapes going on. But I feel like his career will never be the same once he leaves. So, you know, the old saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I have a feeling he, you know, maybe he goes to a place like Miami or the Texans or something with familiar people that he knows, and maybe they can do something with him. But I feel like his best fit is and was and will always be Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers.
Which is why I'm so confused. Because, okay, he wants out, he's bitter for whatever reason. But usually in these cases, you know what the player or the team is looking for by leaving, right? Some players want to get paid. Some players want to get, you know, more opportunity. You see a lot of young players, they hit free agency, they leave their team they're currently on to go get, you know, be the number 2 receiver, be the number 1 guy elsewhere. You see guys go for big paydays. I don't know what Deebo Samuel wants, because as of last year in 2024, he had the most touches on the team. He was getting the ball continually during games. Now, look, the offensive line wasn't great. Some guys didn't block. Things weren't great. Their backup quarterbacks were playing last year. Like, everything went wrong for a variety of reasons. However, Deebo Samuel was getting highly paid, was getting the football, was a captain on the team. What other team is going to give you all 3 of those things? Like, I don't know what he wants, which is why, while him asking for a trade or release isn't confusing, I get why he wants to do it. I just don't understand the reasoning behind it, because, okay, you're frustrated, that's the reasoning, but I don't know exactly, like, I can't connect the dots of, like, you have everything you want in San Francisco. Why are you leaving when you're comfortable here, your family's here? You're not going to get the money, the touches, the status of captain, all 3 of those elsewhere. I don't understand that whatsoever.
I don't either. It's really frustrating to when you try to break it down like that. Like I know one thing for sure, listening to you and Dre Area Sports, is you're not going to miss this podcast if he leaves, correct?
It is, look, someone that, for myself, that went to college, has my sports journalism degree, been doing podcasts for a while, worked at a radio station, hosting radio. I get it. It's an athlete-driven league. Athletes want to have their own voices. That's great, whatever, although it takes my job away, whatever. Like, I'm bitter towards that to a certain degree. Not to say Deebo Samuel can't talk. Deebo Samuel, the only responses he has are like, yeah, yep, that was tough. I'm tired. Cool. It's like,
he's always laying back in his chair. He looks
like,
so
elaborate.
exhausted.
It's like, I get it. You play a grueling sport and I'm sure you're tired, but it's like, there are so many great athlete-led podcasts out there. So many great ones. Deebo Samuels has to be one of the worst ever.
Dre Area Sports made a good point, because I was listening to your guys' stream from the other day. It's not even his own podcast. He's a guest on his own podcast.
Honestly.
Which is
like, they have
like,
him and
what?
the girl and then the other guest, and it's like, why are you here? The other 2 are talking, you're not.
I think my second least favorite is the Warner House one. Oh Lord. Like, Fred, stop talking. Go away for the off season. Go.
Do you know what's crazy? One of the biggest questions I have in my life isn't, oh, my future and my wife and my dog, or, you know, our house. It's, why does Fred Warner have me blocked on Twitter? I have no idea why. Like, of all the players, I love him near the top of the list. Fred, why am I blocked on Twitter,
Yeah,
brother?
he
I
has
don't know
me
what I
blocked.
did that was so
Fred,
wrong.
Debo has me blocked.
Man,
You know
that
who
isn't that bad
followed?
now.
Hey guys, you know who followed me the other day? Random thing.
Who
Nick
is it?
Bosa's mom,
Cheryl.
Cheryl Bosa. Don't know if it was a
Cheryl.
mistake, but I'm like, what? So I keep
I will
checking
say
every
this.
day, and huh?
I will say this. I get people constantly like, you need to go and tell John Lynch this. And I'm like, I'm not the 49ers. Like, I have no connection. I mean, I've been in the media room, but like, I can't tell the front office to do things. I get, you guys stink. You're the 49ers. You need to tell them to trade Debo. And I'm like, ma'am, this is a fan podcast
We
with
have
maybe
no
some
pull in
credentials.
the organization.
No,
Maybe someone like Grant who can get access to the press room.
maybe.
But that's even a stretch because they don't really like him.
I mean, I can get in the press room, but it's like John Lynch will look at me and be like, "No, I'm good, man. Don't even talk to
I'm
me."
good.
All right,
No,
fair.
the only person I like who actually gives great questions when they're actually in the press room is Larry Krueger.
Crew show.
He
Taking a
actually
pickle.
picking a pickle, baby. He said, Kyle, let me see if I can say your name right.
Love, exciting and new. Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever. It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships of Bermudan and British Registry.
Kali Young. Diva's attitude and poor conditioning was worn on me. When you add lack of production, it's time to go. Yep, 100%. There was a report that he was 20 pounds overweight this year.
Do you believe that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it could have been in the beginning of the season, but maybe towards the end of the season. Yeah, I could absolutely believe it. He's been out of shape before, which to me is ridiculous as a professional athlete who has a whole offseason to train. One thing that really bothered me about the end of the year press conferences when they talked about having extra weeks to be off.
Yeah.
And how everybody was just like looking forward to it. Like, what? Like, I understand as a person wanting to. The team that you guys can't beat is in the Super Bowl, and then they get smoked by the team that, they smoke the team that we can never beat, right? And that just it was so. Who did I have on? I think it was Joe Shasky. He was put off by those end of the year press conferences too. Like it was almost like they were too accepting of their failure and like, yes, we really haven't had any time off. We've had some long seasons, and I'm just like, please, nobody wants to hear that. So yeah, that's why like go away for a while. Go to Cabo, do what you got to do. See you in April or whenever the first OTAs or whatever. Not after this past season, bro. This is an interesting next topic. Devondre Campbell. I saw Larry Krueger trying to he was talking about the tweets.
Yes.
And he was trying to talk, reiterate them on his show.
Tough to do that.
Couldn't say most of the words.
Right.
What do you make of that meltdown?
Dude, what a loser, man. I mean, gosh. We ripped Devondre Campbell, and rightfully so. He quit on the team. Like, just a stupid decision to quit on the team. And look, you can feel the way you do. You can be frustrated. You can be annoyed. But, like, you can tell there is this entitlement when you read his tweets, especially, of like, no, the Niners needed me. And it's like, brother, no, they didn't. You were a placeholder from the beginning. You were a second option from the beginning. And if you believe Kyle Shanahan, you were the third option from the beginning. Like, this idea that San Francisco needed Devondre and he did such a great job and, oh my gosh, like, they should be lucky to have me. Like, brother, like, one, you made yourself look like an ass on the field as a player, on the sideline walking away on the Jumbotron, and now on social media. It's like, I didn't expect this to be brought up again. I figured, okay, it's unceremonious end to, the career Devondre Campbell, whatever. But this idea that San Francisco begged him to play, as Ray Area Sports points out there, like, I'm sure they asked you, Devondre, why don't you want to play? Get out there. We have injuries. Like, come on, dude. But I'm not going to lie to you. D. Winters played relatively well to end the year. Like, they didn't need you out there at any point in time. Like, if anything, most fans were begging him to be benched by week 5. He was so bad.
Yeah, one of the things, and I hate to keep bringing up another podcast, but Larry was talking about how he played so awful in that game against the Seahawks, where Geno Smith ran for the game-winning touchdown, and he was just, completely. He had no chance on the play. Slow. He was. I mean, we watched him in coverage. We watched him do pretty much anything, and he was poor at it. But you had to know going in that you were a placeholder for one of the best players on the team, if not the lifeblood, the heartbeat, the everything of this team. Because for the little bit of time that Dre Greenlaw played when he came back, the 49ers defense looked like the defense from, like 2019.
It did.
For that little bit of time. And then it exploded because he got hurt again. But you knew that was coming. I don't understand the anger. Then the money, to talk about his money and how he says things, but then gets off Twitter because he's better than us and he doesn't have to respond to our tweets. And then he's going at Niners players in the locker room. He's going at media, picking fights, talking about he stands on business. What are you gonna do? Fight the whole world, bro? What's up with that? I don't understand
that's the
it.
thing is he's on Twitter saying I'm by myself all the time. If you want some, come get some. Like he's prime John Cena on Monday Night Raw in 2008. Brother, first off, nobody wants to fight you. Yeah. Second off, nobody even likes you. You are the last thing on their mind. I'm sure in 15 years when they're having the 2024 team reunion, at some point they'll make a joke and a quip about, Devondre Campbell, he quit, blah, blah. But it's the fact that he believes people are even thinking of Devondre Campbell, this idea of rent-free, the San Francisco 49ers and what Devondre Campbell's actions were live rent-free in his own head. The fact that he was that frustrated, that upset on Twitter, that people, rightfully so, were asking, dude, why did you quit? Why did you leave? You're a bum, all these things, which isn't always the right avenue to go down, but it's to go and call out John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, to call out your team and be come get me if you want me. It's this go outside, touch some grass, and just float away into retirement.
The fact that he says he's always alone is a telling fact that the guy's a freaking mental case. Kind of reminded me when he says that, he like you said, the players are not even thinking about him. Kind of reminding me of that CM Punk Seth Rollins promo where he talks about you were worried about me. I wasn't even thinking about you. I haven't been thinking about you for a long time. Dude has been holding on to this. Once you put out there that you're above something and that it doesn't bother you and you're tweeting about it, that's completely a lie. It absolutely bothers you and you are thinking about it. Otherwise you wouldn't tweet it about it. Exactly. I don't understand it.
And do you know what's crazy about the whole thing? Him quitting, him going on social media at this big rant. Guess what he was just 2 years ago now? He was the Green Bay Packers Walter Payton Man of the Year award finalist. And it's dude, I don't know what happened in between. And look, I do wish Devondre Campbell well, I personally at least. I don't if something's wrong, please be okay. Please be okay.
Yeah, got some CTE.
But just what is this? It wasn't just one tweet. It was 3 or 4 tweets of aggressively yelling to a certain degree, kind of saying, hey, if you want to fight, let's go fight. And to call out John and Kyle, and then to end your ranting with, I play because I want to. Okay, well, unfortunately now you're never going to play again, even if you do want to. It's over with. It's done.
He just ended his career.
which like maybe he wanted to. He's in his early 30s. He has plenty of money. Like whatever, dude, do your thing, right? Like if you want to be Antonio Brown, which Antonio Brown has done far worse things than Devondre Campbell, if you want to do that, fine. You have plenty of money. You're an athlete. You're in your 30s. Like do whatever you want. But to think this makes you look better and to act like you don't care is insane. Because clearly you do. Clearly you do. Why didn't the Packers retain him? Well, he sucked. That's kind of it. He wasn't good anymore.
You among a bunch of other people last year. I think I talked to you during the season.
Yeah.
Like the Niners didn't really have a choice when it came to signing him because they got stiffed by Kendricks, who ended up going to the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken. That was their number one guy. Yeah, it's just last year was such a dumb season, man. So much. It was just, man, like the negativity just isn't stopping. Like with the whole Debo situation, and now with this, and man. Then I guess we should transition into the topic because of everything that's going on. I tweeted this more than once since the Super Bowl ended because of what Philly did and how they were able to kick Kansas City's ass, and we haven't been able to beat Kansas City. I said that the 49ers aura or whatever they call it is really low right now. You know, the Niners have banked for a long time on equity that they've built up through in some of their most competitive seasons and done a lot of things well, this, and the other. But last year, to me personally, Sterling undid a lot of that. And I feel like a lot of the cachet that they've built up and being the bullies on the block, I feel like none of that really means anything going in this offseason. This offseason, to me, has to be serious. That I just don't feel that they have that kind of whatever Philly did to Kansas City. Philly's kind of the new bully on the block again, and the 49ers need to go find a way to recapture that.
Yeah, the way I look at the offseason, and everything you're saying is right, that, the aura, the feeling of positivity that, so, we're the monsters of the NFC West, we're the top dog of the NFC, it's gone, right? Like, Philadelphia is there, the Lions are there, and not to say San Francisco can't get back there because they have so much top-end talent that they can carry the roster if they're healthy to 9-10 plus wins next year. But I think I would equate this to what Philadelphia went through last year, maybe to a lesser extent, because Philadelphia still went to the playoffs and was still good for the most of the year, but they were demoralized after last year ended. Had a phenomenal offseason, got, Cooper DeJean, got Quinyon Mitchell, beefed up the interior, signed Zach Bond, which was a big surprise. But I also kind of equate it to what the Rams went through a couple of years ago, and Matthew Stafford got hurt, and Cooper Kupp got hurt, and a lot of their guys were banged up. It took them 2 years to kind of rekindle things. They were good last year, but really weren't dominant. But had a really good draft this past year in 2024. Gave them Jared Verse, gave them Braden Fisk, gave them a lot of what they hope to be as their cornerstone defensive players of the future. It's going to take one of those drafts. It's going to take one of those off seasons to propel San Francisco back up the standings. Thankfully, they play in a relatively, I don't want to say tough division, but or easy one. But the Rams, if they trade Stafford, if Cooper Kupp is gone, let's see what they do. The Seahawks or Seattle, they really weren't that great last year. Kind of floated on by. Were middling for most of it. Then the Cardinals are the Cardinals, right? Second year of Kyler and Marvin Harrison together. We'll see what happens. If Bride's great, but the NFC West is wide open. Like, even if you win 9 games and get in, you're in, right? Be it 2021 again, right? Just kind of sneak in and cause some havoc, right? I'm good with that. But they have to have a very serious offseason, which kind of led to, and maybe we'll get into this in a second, the reports of Kyle Shanahan going to the combine, now not going to the combine. Like, when it first happened, a lot of opinions, including mine, was like, this is a serious offseason, pick 11. They got to get this thing right.
Yep.
And the indications are there. That's what they're doing. And they'll still try to do that. But it did seem like for at least maybe a day or so or half a day or so, this was like if we don't get this right, this thing comes crashing down in 1 year or two.
Yeah, I saw the tweet just like everybody else, and I read most of the Kawakami article,
Yeah.
and he kind of reiterated about how this is a different offseason that we've had, just based on how everything went wrong last year and the way kind of Philly did things and all that stuff. And I just feel like previous off seasons, we still had this kind of cachet that we had built up through the NFL where teams still looked at us as the new, the big, big bullies on the block. And I felt like this year, for the first time in a long time, nobody feared the 49ers. And by the end of the year, I mean, we were getting our asses kicked, by Buffalo, whoever was good enough, Detroit, anybody. Like it just ended. It ended horribly. It was bad from jump with all the injuries and stuff. That's one other thing too, with all the talk of free agency, the draft. The Niners got to be really healthy going into next year. That is one thing that has to go right for them because, I mean, the Christian McCaffrey injury was killer, and then of course Brandon Ayuk gets injured. So there's a lot of things that I feel like they have to recapture their previous glory, and I think it can be done with a really solid draft, free agency, and all that stuff. So. We got about another 3 weeks before free agency hits, so we'll see.
It's going to be exciting too because I talked about this with Dre Area Sports on my own show and on his as well. The 49ers, if there's an iceberg, right? They're really big out of the water. Well, it's a beautiful iceberg. You get Chris McCaffrey and George Kittle and Brock Purdy and Fred Warner. Oh, there's so much talent, but underneath it's really tiny and really thin. And again, that top end can carry you a long way. You have star talent, it takes you a long way. But if you don't have the insulation, you don't have the depth. As soon as that iceberg starts melting and what's underneath is shown, there ain't much there. And so they did a pretty good job last year. Garendo, Mustafa, Pooney, Pearsall. Hopefully he can bounce back next year after having a pretty rough beginning, but then a really good ending to his rookie season. They got Cowling. Hopefully he's part of the offense next year in some degree outside of the punt returner only. But they got some pieces in place. That said, you have to have another 2024 draft class to help bring you in 2025 again. And look, the great thing is where San Francisco has needs, this draft class is loaded. You want an edge rusher? They got him in the top end. Thankfully, San Francisco is at 11 where they could get a player like Mike Green from Marshall. Like there are some names out there you like on the edge market. Then there's the interior defensive line of this class is insane. We're talking guys in the 4th round. You say, yep, day one starter. There's just those guys out there. Receiver isn't super deep, but there's a lot of good depth pieces there. Cornerback as well. Like you're not going to find your elite guys outside of that 1st round. However, a lot of starting caliber cornerbacks in the middle rounds as well. So I think this is one of the best classes to almost have a down year because of. I think San Francisco is in a really good spot to change things and turn things around. But to your point, got to take things seriously. You can't take big risks because if you do and you miss, it's going to doom what you do in 2025. Like the last thing I want is they're going to draft a tight end in round 1. And it's like, that's cool. You already got one of those, and he's really good. Like you can find the backups wherever, but like you don't need to have the top end tight end too.
You're not going to sell the fan base about a tight end, no matter what you try.
Exactly.
Regardless, because you have so many other needs at so many key positions. I look at some of the players on this team that I think, when I talk about cachet and not having it anymore, and that things have to get serious. I made a comment about, because I saw the Cabo pitcher, and I see Trent Taylor in there, and I'm just like, this whole like, oh, we're gonna put him on the practice squad or sign him as one of our 53.
He's a vibes guy.
All he is Trent. All he is George Kittle's friend. Like right. You can't afford to have that kind of. You can't like this whole like he's friends of a friend of somebody on the team, and we're gonna sign him just because like. You can't do that anymore. Like that kind of stuff, those kind of, I call them legacy signings or, just like I said, they're friends of somebody on the team. Like we're going into an off season where like that kind of stuff can't fly anymore. And I don't want to see a guy like Trent Taylor on this team, regardless of who he's friends with. When I saw that picture and I saw him there, and I'm like, why is he in Cabo? Like, it just gave me a bad feeling of like, man, they really have to, they really got to get serious this offseason. So it was disappointing to hear that Kyle is not going to be at the combine based on, the Kyle Kami report of, it being such a serious offseason after such a horrible season. Like, I wonder what changed. I mean, a lot of the big name guys out there reported that as, prophecy, man, like it was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, he's not going, he's going to stay back.
Right. Which that's what Kyle does. He would rather go through, 50 guys film and tape, which is more valuable than a combine workout, mind you, than meet a guy in person. And honestly, and maybe it means absolutely nothing, but the last time Kyle Shanahan went to a combine, they picked Trey Lance. And maybe it means nothing, and I don't think it does, but it's like, okay, well, that kind of has stained me to a certain extent. And I'd rather, if I was Kyle Shanahan, not go to the combine either. But, it's of the liking of like, okay, how serious are you taking this? Which I don't think Kyle going to the combine or not going to the combine determines how serious he is about winning. But optics wise, when, I don't know, 26 other coaches are there and you're not, that can irk somebody and make them at least question, like, what's Kyle up to right now?
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pup, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
What do you think you're going to hear from John Lynch at the combine? Watch a little. He is the PC.
Yeah, he's the coach speak GM.
Yeah, he's very much says nothing and a lot of things at the same time when he gives his press conferences.
Yeah,
and that's why John
I'm sure
is there. Go ahead.
There'll probably be questions about Deebo Samuel's future. What's the plan with him? I'm sure it'll be. Deebo's a great player. We love having him here. If he's still here next year, it's going to be awesome. But, we'll see. And we'll kind of, we'll go about that as things progress. And I don't think we'll get too many definitive answers.
Nope.
Sometimes you may get, they're picking up this player's fifth-year option, albeit nowadays because they didn't have a first-round pick in forever. It's not going to be part of it. Maybe they talk about small free agent signings. I'm sure Ray Greenlaw's future gets brought up. And then Brock Purdy will be a massive question. I'm sure 95% of the questions are going to be about Brock Purdy, right?
Yeah.
Which will be just nonsense. Yeah, we're working through that. We got to have urgency. We got to be urgent in getting Brock Purdy signed. And it's like, okay, well, what the hell does that even mean? It's been 6 months. Like, what does that mean? Brandon Ayuk, we'll see you on day before week 1 against the Jets. Like, I don't know. So he'll say a lot of something and a lot of nothing in about, I don't know, starting on Wednesday or Thursday next week.
Yeah. Anytime John Lynch gets on the platform, he looks the part. He is a CEO to the max, but he really doesn't say much. Kyle doesn't like to speak. So I like when the press conferences would be like, yeah, what John said, like he always acquiesced. So yeah, I'm just hoping, I'll be interested to see, or at least watch John's body language. And I want to get a vibe from John, where he is mentally in the off season, just coming off of what last year was. I personally, as a fan, want to see some seriousness. I want to see, I don't want to hear about, in the past, we've always been this team and that's our MO and this and that. Like, is this cliche? Like, this is what the 49ers, at least with me and Kyle have been there. This is what we're all about. Like, I don't want to hear any of that shit. I want to hear what you're going to do to make this team become relevant again, because last year they fell so far off the mark from being relevant that, it wasn't good enough. And it's going to take a Herculean type effort this offseason for them to at least, in my opinion, for myself, get the trust of the fan base back, because say what you want about Kyle and John, and we always have this conversation about who we should fire and Kyle Shanahan and this and that. This is an important season.
Yeah.
The 49ers go into this season and biff the draft, and they have a fourth place schedule, and they biff the season and they play really poorly. Those conversations for the first time in a long time are going to get really loud, and rightfully so. So to me, as a fan, for someone who does this YouTube thing for shits and giggles, like this is an important offseason for me. I want to be proven wrong personally. So.
Well, I think for the team and the fan base, and even for myself, it's very demoralizing to have your season over in late November, right?
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah,
it's Thanksgiving. You're with the family. You're out there eating turkey, and the only thing you can say is God, those 49ers are terrible. And you want to have a conversation of, go back to 2023. They're out there clinching the division, or 2022, excuse me. It's 2023. They're eating turkey on Thanksgiving against the Seattle Seahawks. Oh man, this is great. And it just brings good vibes. The team feels good. The fan base feels good. And last year, whether it's views on, my channel, your channel, other people's channels, even on the radio, people did not care about the San Francisco 49ers the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah.
And that's despite being somewhat still in the playoff hunt. The fan base recognized there ain't no hope. They ain't got no chance. And I think for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, I think they realize that, once they pay Brock Purdy, that clock starts ticking, right?
Yes, it
The
does.
second they pay Brock, okay, you got 2 years to get it, whether it's deep playoff runs or a Super Bowl, something's got to change. And I think, let's say, like you said, they biff this year and Brock gets paid. And even if Brock looks competent for whatever reason, they just don't do well. 2026 becomes the make it or break it. Unfortunately, that's kind of the deal you sign once you extend your quarterback. So, for the people that want Kyle fired and John fired, albeit I wouldn't want the latter fired or even Kyle fired to that matter, but the clock is ticking. As soon as Brock signs pen to paper, it's okay. Tick, tick, tock. You better win now. And if you don't, 2026 may be the end all be all of their tenure.
Yep, I 100% agree. Yeah, it was a tough season to watch. Knowing in November, I mean, I know Dre Area Sports. He covers Warriors. He covers Giants. The Giants have been kind of down team for a while. The Warriors, they're an aging. We're coming to the end of the. And I don't follow either the Giants or Warriors, but Curry's coming to the end of his career. It's just. Must suck to be a Bay Area fan last year, and even going into the, so the Niners, they can do. I look at the Philadelphia Eagles as the perfect example of how to get it back right after one really bad season, or a season that, for the Eagles, they started well and then it kind of ended poorly in 2023. Whatever, have a strong draft, get deep on this round. Like you said, we need depth. I think we have a Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green, and Diamador Lenore. Those guys are legit, real starters in the secondary. You got Fred Warner, Bosa, and not much else on defense. So they have
and
some
George Odom.
And George Odom. Yeah. So let's Trey Area says, let's not talk about the San Francisco Giants.
Hey,
yeah,
Dre, you saw Bryce Eldridge's 450-foot home run yesterday, and you got a little wet in your pants because we all did. Did.
You peed in your pajamas. We all know it.
If peeing your pants is cool, you can consider me Miles Davis.
Exactly. We talked about you let me know about this when we were prepping when I was telling you the topics. You wanted to give Sterling Bennett's top 5 backup quarterbacks for the 2025 season. So let's hear your list of backup quarterbacks.
Right. So this is going to primarily be free agent options for the San Francisco 49ers this year. Going to be a lot of names you don't like. I get that. They're backup quarterbacks for a reason. They're going to be relatively cheaper. Some you're going to like, some you're going to say, there ain't no way in hell it's going to happen. But like me and like the entire fan base knows,
I Better start wearing a diaper, bro. I don't know.
I think he did actually poop himself, which is pretty funny. But by the way, the Warriors are 5-1 with Jimmy Butler on the team. But moving on. The Niners know the importance of backup quarterbacks. You go back to 2021, Jimmy G, then Trey Lance comes in, wins the game against the Texans. 2022, you have Trey, you have Jimmy, you have Brock. They've had 8 quarterbacks start games for them since 2017. Some of those are, different reasons. Some of those are resting quarterbacks for late in the season games. Some of those are because they just aren't very good during the rebuilding years. However, San Francisco currently only has Brock Purdy and Tanner Mordecai as their backup quarterback. Not great. I know there are some Tanner Mordecai truthers out there. I am not one of them, albeit I don't mind him being your quarterback 3. I just don't want him being the backup emergency, get in there and win us a football game quarterback behind Brock Purdy. With that in mind, I have compiled 5 free agent quarterbacks, no draft picks included here. I'll be, if I was going to draft somebody this year, just to give you some input into who I think they could draft. It's Kyle McCord from Syracuse, very Brock Purdy-like, high ceiling, low floor quarterback. The batted balls are certainly a problem. 11 of those last year. So a Brock Purdy mainstay is on the docket for Kyle McCord, but he's 6'2", 220 pounds. Ohio State transfer this past year, over 4,500 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He had 31 big time throws, 22 turnover worthy plays. That's a lot, the most in college football this past year in this draft class. But he plays aggressive. He plays loose. And really plays like Brock Purdy does. But you want the free agent guys that I have listed in front of me. The first one, I think everybody would say makes the most sense, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Aaron. I have Joe Flacco. His current market value is $3.2 million. Yes, he's older. He's going to be 40 going into the 2025 season, but it's not the first time San Francisco has shown some interest in him. Wanted to bring him in 2021 for a visit. Didn't sign him then, but now are showing interest again in 2025. Maybe one of the few kind of bust-proof quarterbacks because he really doesn't play poorly and really can kind of keep things afloat for you during the year. We all know 2023 with the Browns, he was absolutely incredible, saving their season from disaster and taking into the playoffs in that year with Amari Cooper as his top receiver. But even this past year, like Father Time has not really been a problem with him so far. He had the 23rd highest passer grade from PFF this past year. He had 8 big time throws and his average at the target was 9.2. I think Joe Flacco makes a lot of sense as a potential backup quarterback behind Brock Purdy this year.
Absolutely. I saw that early in the offseason. I would jump on that. He's not a super mobile guy, but he's just a really good solid back. You want a guy that could win a game in a pinch or come in a game where a guy goes down and you don't have to worry. And Joe Flacco, like I said, is not a sexy name, but I would totally be down with it.
He also doesn't turn the ball over too much. And I can see allegedly Steve-O saying Jameis Winston in the YouTube comments. Winston, I think, would drive Kyle Shanahan crazy. A lot of boom, a lot of bust, albeit there are some names on my list that certainly have that in common with Jameis Winston. Flacco's number 1. That's who I would sign. The number 2 name is a little more bust than boom, if you will. But what about Jarrett Stidham, who with the Raiders a couple years ago had that really crazy game against the Niners? The ceiling isn't too high, but the market value is pretty low at $2.6 million. So relatively cheap around that Joshua Dobbs range. I think he plays somewhat like Brock Purdy, and Kyle Shanahan said that he wanted to have his backups play similar to his starter. So Stidham could make some sense for San Francisco this year. He doesn't have the arm talent. He doesn't have these physical traits you like. He doesn't have the 10-yard split that Brock Purdy has, but he's somewhat competent in play action. And over the last couple of years since 2022, has a 72.4 PFF grade targeting the middle of the football field. Again, I'd rather have Flacco, but Jared Stidham could also make some sense for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of him recently. I
Right.
do remember that game from a couple years ago, and he was pretty impressive against the 49ers defense. So, yeah, I just haven't really seen much of him since then. Whereas Flacco, he's seems like he's always on our television screens at some point
It's
over
true.
the last couple of years for whatever reason for the Browns. Wasn't he in Indianapolis for a while too with Richardson?
Yes, last year Flacco played 7 games, I think, because the Colts didn't know what to do with Anthony Richardson. He started and he pulled himself out of the game, then he came back in, then they benched him, and then Flacco played. It was a very weird season for them out there in Indianapolis. But I think Flacco makes a lot of sense, although I would not be, I guess you can say, downturned from Jarrett Stidham as Purdy's backup next year.
I think the one thing too, when people talk about Trey Lance and if you would have stuck with him, is that you might have had a similar situation to what the Colts had, where you're force feeding this guy, and that's kind of what they could have gotten, just to done know another one of these guys that. If I'm not mistaken, Richardson didn't have a ton of playing experience coming into the NFL as well either. So that's the price you pay, unfortunately, if you do tend to stick with a guy like that. So if you want to get a sneak peek of what the 49ers might have went through had they forced that issue, and gave into that, there you go. Because I looked at a lot of that and I'm like, man, if the Niners would have stuck with him, that's kind of what they would have been stuck with. Just
Right.
losing game. You can't have a quarterback losing games for you in the National Football League, especially if you're with the 49ers. They have so much other money invested into other positions. But yeah, let's hear the next one.
The next one is one that was here last year in San Francisco, one that I would not be opposed to bringing back. No, it's not Brandon Allen. It is Joshua Dobbs. His market value is a little higher than Stidham's at $3 million exactly, which, Dobbs definitely has that, boomer bust in him. He'll throw with 3 interceptions, but also give you 3 touchdowns. And you're like, oh, wow, he'll give you 21 points, but he'll also give the ball away late in football games. You saw it against the Cardinals this past year. They were in that game till the turnovers kind of took over for him. Also, very mobile, plays a very different brand of football than Brock Purdy, but gives you certainly more than, say, your run-of-the-mill quarterbacks like a Joe Flacco, like a Brandon Allen, like, a Drew Lock, if you will. Since over the last 2 years, Dobbs has thrown for under 300 yards, about 2,800, 15 touchdowns, 12 interceptions in 15 games. On the ground, he has 445 yards and 8 touchdowns. So total, 3,270 yards, 23 touchdowns since 2023. The issue is the turnovers. 23 touchdowns, 21 turnovers. There's a roller coaster ride that comes with Joshua Dobbs, but I feel like that Kyle Shanahan would not be too opposed to bringing him back. However, one thing that sticks with me is that I don't know why he wasn't the quarterback to begin last year. Like, that to me may make me think that Kyle will be like, nope, he's gone. See you later. And I'm not sure if Joshua Dobbs wants to come back, but I also wouldn't mind if he does come back.
I heard there was a report that he was pissed that he didn't get the number 2 job last year, and then he wants out. I don't know where I heard it from. I don't trust anything anymore, man. I remember there was it's a Twitter handle. I don't know if it's like 49ers 24 News 24/7, blah blah blah. Everybody was posting all this stuff before.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Before the coaches, the defense and special teams coaches signed, and was saying everything was a done deal and everyone was retracting. So I'm like, man, I have no trust in any of these guys anymore. But I continue.
Right. And to give, to add on to Dobbs, it may take amending offenses for sure. But if they don't bring back Brandon Allen, I have a hard time believing that Joshua Dobbs wouldn't be the quarterback 2 in the room above Tanner Mordecai. But again, there may need to be some cooling of heads to prevail to make that move happen. Did Joshua Dobbs struggle in the preseason? I thought he played relatively well against the Titans and against the Saints, but Kyle felt differently, I guess. But I don't know. My fourth guy is going to probably make you never have me on the stream again. And I get it. I totally get why fans may say, get out of here. We hate you forever. That is Denver Broncos backup quarterback, which I guess was their third string last year, Zach Wilson. The only reason why I say this is because Kyle Shanahan has now gotten this got this reputation of, I'll take a different team's garbage at the quarterback position and I'll make it pristine. I'll turn it into something new, right? Sam Darnold being one of the bigger examples of this. Funny enough, True. Zach Wilson has the Jets to a different team, to the Niners, maybe career path. Now, don't get me wrong here. A lot to dislike from Zach Wilson. A lot of turnovers, 37 since 2021. He has been a quarterback that doesn't really like to play in structure, which may just piss Kyle Shanahan off to a degree you've never seen before. And Robert Saleh could say, no, I've been through that, been there, done that. I never want to do it again. So I can see that being a big detractor of this move happening. However, if you were around in 2021 and reading things intently during that time, San Francisco heavily scouted Zach Wilson during that draft, traded up in the draft to obviously get Trey Lance, albeit a lot of people believe that had the Jets not taken Zach Wilson, he was going to be the guy. I don't know if I believe that, but it certainly is an opinion out there of many high-regarded people. That said, I do think that there's a lot that Wilson can bring. He's he's very mobile. He has the arm strength. He can evade the pocket, although the pocket presence isn't great. And he wants to play hero ball too much. I do think that Shanahan, yells at him a few times, makes him play in the structure. Look, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have George Kittle, you have Juwan Jennings and Pearsall. You don't have to do anything. Just give them the ball and let them lead you. Yep. I think there maybe is a path where Zach Wilson can make some sense, albeit you have to find another guy to bring in like last year. Last year was Joshua Dobbs and Brandon Allen. If you sign Zach Wilson, you got to sign somebody else behind him too.
What's your number 5 quarterback?
Okay, number 5, you're going to hate me even more.
Oh, no hate.
Because number 5 is Mac McCorkle-Jones. And I get it. People hate Mac Jones. A lot of those reasons are valid. You're not going to find your Daniel Jones. He's going to get more money than, $6 million. He's going to get paid. Not a lot, but get paid more. And when you have to look at the backup quarterback position, a lot of bargain bin shopping. Aaron Rodgers ain't coming here. Sam Darnold's not coming back to back up a quarterback. Those guys want to start elsewhere. Although I would not want Mac Jones per se over the 4 guys ahead of him, I do think Mac Jones, again, going back to 2021, seemingly he was the guy until Kyle got his mind changed. And we know Kyle. I can make anything work. If it means pushing a square peg into a round hole, I'll do it. And so I do think there may be some stubbornness with Kyle to make this work. But I do think that Mac Jones can. Cardell Jones. Now, Jones is also in a place where he may need Kyle Shanahan more than, say, a Zach Wilson or Jared Stidham. And I think there may be some desperation on Mac's end to go to a place to rehab his career and his image and kind of get the tutelage of Kyle Shanahan to help him build his career back up. So I think there is a way that Mac Jones could come to San Francisco. His market value is around $5.6 or $5.4 million. I think it may be a little less than that next year. I also don't want people to forget that Mac Jones was also really good in his rookie season. He was a Pro Bowler. He had 34 touchdowns, or excuse me, Since 2021, he has 34 touchdowns and 38 turnovers. He was a Pro Bowler in his first year with the Patriots. I do think that this move makes more sense if Deebo Samuel was staying, albeit, again, you have Kittle, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have the weapons here. The move certainly makes eye rolls, and I totally get that, but I do think that if you're looking for a quarterback that may say, I need Kyle Shanahan more than he needs me, it may be Mac Jones.
Yeah, to me, the Joe Flacco is the top
That's
of the
the guy.
list.
Yes.
And everything after that is just gets progressively
Yeah, it does.
it's like, yeah, oh my goodness. It's like the game that we used to play at the bus stop if we're going to school. What was it, King of the Mountain? Or you get on top of a snowbank or something, and like Flacco's up there, like untouched, and everybody else is just fighting below. Real quick, couple questions. I don't know how much more time you have.
Yeah.
I wanted to hit quickly. We have I have this as a topic. Draft scenarios. There is talk. I am a person who thinks you get the best player available at 11, but I'm also not against, because of, like you said, the Niners need depth. The Niners need to really bang it out in this draft. Any possibility, based on what the draft is so far, where you could see the 49ers trading out of that 11 pick, or trading up into the top end of the first round and trading away picks for a player?
I think if they're going to trade away picks, a lot of that hinges on what happens with Deebo Samuel and what they can get for him. Say it's a 4th round pick, and say the board falls their way, whether it's Will Campbell and they want to get ahead of the Bears. Say it's, I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden, Mason Graham from Michigan. Say he falls down. I think there's a way. I also would say I think it's more likely they would trade back.
Okay.
San Francisco likes to make moves in the middle of the rounds. They like, the first round is so different because usually in most first rounds, everyone kind of has their 4 or 5 guys they like, and they'll take them no matter what, right? Usually you've seen some aggression. They have the one elite guy, the blue chipper on their board. In San Francisco's case, the gold helmet player they want to make sure they get. Pearsall had that. Pooney had that last year. I think Mustafa had that too. So like there are certain guys they may circle and say, gotta get him. And I'm sure they'll make some calls, but I can very easily see a situation where if there are players like I'm trying to think, say Walter Nolan on the board from Ole Miss, but Ashton Genty's still there, and a team like the Broncos wants to come calling. They want to get ahead of the Cowboys. I can see that happening. I can see a team, like, let's say, the Falcons, who want an edge rusher. And Mike Green's still there, albeit I'd take Mike Green in this case. I can see San Francisco trading back to 15, only 3 spots, maybe getting a 3rd round pick or a 2nd round pick next year. Than anything that says, okay, cool. We can get Walter Nolan at 15. You get Mike Green at 12, whatever, 11, and we're good there. I just think mock drafts can be tricky because it really isn't reality. PFF is simply just Trevor Sikkema's scouting reports, which is fine. He's really good at what he does, but it's not like what the NFL is saying. You have your Daniel Jeremiah's, your Bucky Brooks, who do a great job too, and other places as well. That said, the first round gives you some surprises. Last year, Michael Penix was there. Bo Nix got drafted in the first round. So I think if anything, you're going to see him trade back. I think they want that mid-round maneuverability. They have, 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick, and no 5th round draft picks this year. So, that's usually their home run around. So we shall see. But also, like you said, best player available. I mean, I would not draft a tight end in the 1st round.
No.
And I get it. Tyler Warren's really good, but I wouldn't take him at 11. That's insane to me. He's not Brock Bowers. He's really good, but he's not Brock Bowers, in my opinion. Yet the way the edge rusher group is kind of worked out, there's like 3 bona fide guys. Only 2 of those guys really fit San Francisco's defense. 11, like you have Abdul Carter, you have Pierce from Tennessee, and you have Mike Green. But then after that, there is somewhat of a fall off. So if Mike Green's there, I would take him instantly and say, you know what, fine. Like, we don't have to get a D tackle this early. If this team drafts a cornerback at 11, I may blow my brains out. It is like, I just can't do it again. And they don't do it usually, but it's just like, we don't need that right now. But yeah.
Everybody in their mind thinks, okay, we got to follow the Eagles' path back to the Super Bowl because the Eagles did what we did, or we're using the same kind of method of operation as the 49ers did about defensive line. We got to get depth and we got to get players and we got to have this ferocious pass rush. Robert Saleh's back. Chris Kasteric's still on the team. And I feel like we're setting ourselves up as fans for failure in the draft because, like you said, what if they do draft the tight end? What if they draft the corner? Like all this stuff that we think is going to happen because based on how poorly the season ended and what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl, Kyle and John seem to always do exactly opposite of what 49er fans think that they need to do. They don't listen to us. I don't know why they don't listen to us, but they don't. One question about a draft pick. Any possibility the Niners draft another kicker? That wasn't a topic, by the way. I just threw that in your face.
No, that's fine. If they do, then they have not learned their lesson. I think a lot of people need to get used to the idea that Jake Brendel and Jake Moody could both be back next year, at least in training camp. I know that don't love that
heard
either.
That before too. I'm starting to accept it.
I think there's a real chance next year San Francisco's offensive line is Trent Williams, Ben Barch. Jake Brendel, and then Pooney, and then McKivitz again. Albeit, I think San Francisco has to find a left guard. They have to. But I think Ben Barch played good enough to maybe be given an opportunity to start next year, albeit only about 2 games this past year of really good play of sample size. They did interview a kicker, the one from Miami. It's like Borregales is his name or whatever.
I heard something about that. That was at the Senior Bowl, correct?
It was Shrine Bowl, yeah.
Shrine Bowl.
And so if they draft a kicker, barring the 7th round pick, like that's fine, whatever.
I'm okay with that, totally.
But like, let's say we're talking, 4th round, 6th round. Like, I don't love the idea of drafting a position that is literally a crapshoot. The guys you draft suck. The guys you sign as, off the street that are homeless and they're phenomenal. Great. Awesome. Like
they're in another league that doesn't have the same rules. Another sport.
Playing soccer. Right. Like exactly. And so like the idea of you got to get the guy you like, it's like, well, any of these guys can be competent. Can you hit a 50-yard field goal? That's all I'm asking. Can you hit a 35-yarder to win a football game? That's all I'm asking. And so if they do, and I don't think they will, they've gotten so much heat. They've realized the mistake of Jake Moody.
Jeez, Jared.
I mean, he's not wrong. Like he really is right.
I'm going to go search dumpsters at like Burger King and see if I'm going to hold you to that logic.
You'd be surprised what you find in there. You'll be really surprised. But no, like they can't draft a kicker, can they? Can they?
I mean, they drafted one in the 3rd round.
But that was we have the luxury of doing it.
There's no way that they can bring him back, can they? There's no way. He lost them games last year. Are you serious? Like, I've heard you've said it. Other people have said it. Aaron, don't be surprised if he comes back next year and competes for the starting kicker job.
Right.
How did he earn that right? I know John and Kyle say, we're not going to give up on guys. We don't give up on good players. He ain't a good player. You can't tell me that. Real quick, and then we'll get out of here. We touched on the free agency. Is there any one player, or you think there's any one guy the 49ers could focus on? Maybe the Niners make one big free agent signing. Me, if I had to, personally, is I would go after a guy like Javon Holland or Dahlman. Javon Holland would give the 49ers a legit starting free safety. And they already have enough depth at the box safety position. It kind of would, I mean, I know he's had some issues in Miami or whatever. He's a good player. I think he had some injury issues last year, but there's got to be, to me, there's got to be at least one or two players that I would look at and say, starting level player, not, I don't know, one big money guy. I don't see them being insanely active. We talked about this, but is there any one guy out there that you look at and say, yeah, 49ers could bring him in?
I don't know about like a really big name. I think if Joey Bosa gets released, they tried to trade for him last year, things didn't work out. He went back to the Chargers and put together a really good year with them. Khalil Mack also makes sense, albeit I don't think he wants to leave the Chargers. He may retire, but I think he'll want to go back. But Khalil Mack makes some sense. It's like a 1 year kind of mercenary style role for him to go out there and maybe get a ring. I think Gus Bradley's now here. Maybe they try to sign Julian Blackman as safety, albeit it really isn't a bigger name. When you look at the receiver market, maybe Darius Slayton, albeit there's kind of conflicting reports as to what his worth actually is. Maybe on the off chance Keenan Allen wants to come home. Drew Dalman also makes some sense. Obviously, I think he's been one of the players that's been like the most connected to San Francisco in regards to his father playing here with the Niners and San Francisco needing a new center. I also think that we're going to see maybe Robert Saleh look at players like Jamie Sherwood, the linebacker who was with him with the Jets, had a really good year last year. If Dre Greenlaw leaves, but there really isn't one name, and maybe even DJ Jones makes some sense depending on the price tag.
I know Andre wants DJ Jones to come back home. He's reiterated that to me more than once.
Which makes sense. The minute Saleh got rehired, he posted on social media.
Yeah.
Right. And Calais Campbell was a player, I think last year, a lot of Niner fans wanted to trade for at the deadline. Say, hey,
old.
He's old, but he was really good last year for the Dolphins. Right. But again, like, it really just depends. Like, the Niners last year, or 2 years ago, the Niners were coming off, losing against Philadelphia. And there was this, we are one step away. And they went and signed Javon Hargrave on the first day of free agency. I was walking my dog, and it was like, what the hell? Like, what? Okay, like, where'd that come from? So they aren't a team that doesn't big fish hunt, and they can surprise us, albeit I think this year, I don't think they really need the big fish. I think it's, can we accumulate 10 free agents that are really good and 10 draft picks that make, this team better?
I wouldn't go freaking balls deep in one guy. That sounds really bad. Sorry guys. Balls deep. How do I say this? I wouldn't go. Yeah. There's no coming back from that one. I would do it in multiple times. I would sign multiple players, the lower level players, for depth. Sorry. I just destroyed whatever few chat people are in here. Sorry about that.
Oh man.
You know what I was trying to say. Your face is completely red.
Dude.
Anyways, I would like to go the path of, maybe multiple players. Multiple players over a couple big fishes. I just look at the Philadelphia and how they did it and how they were so deep on the defensive line. But they also stayed really healthy last year, so let's not forget that too.
I also wonder, like, a lot of what we're talking about here is a lot of what players, or excuse me, a lot of what fans are talking about. How do you mimic what Philadelphia did? And I think a lot of that has to do with, you have to, do the trenches. You have to replenish the trenches. And you're talking about not getting the one star. You're not talking about getting the one insane, great pass rushing defensive tackle. You're talking about having 4 or 5 guys deep. Like, when I think of the great Niners defenses under Kyle Shanahan, DeMeco Ryan, Saleh, they were deep. Right? You had Armstead, Buckner, Kerry Hyder, Arden Key, Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu. You had in previous years your DJ Jones, Solomon Thomas, Armstead, Buckner,
Ronald Blair.
Right. You had so many players that you're like, these guys may not be starters, but they can get after it. They're fresh. They're competent. And I think that's the route they want to take. I think San Francisco's been burned too much. Now, that said, I think you can do that and still sign Joey Bosa. I think you may have the bigger name, but not the higher salary next to them. Which, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, like I'm up for that. Like those players are worth trading for, albeit where San Francisco is at, maybe it isn't the best avenue to take. But like in this draft specifically, talking about defensive line, the interior defensive line depth in this class is insane. Like if there's one player, like I'm looking at the Oregon defense last year, Jamari Caldwell, like Jordan Birch, that is a Robert Saleh guy that I'm like, get him in here. You want to talk about somewhat replacing Charles Menahue, the inside-outside versatility with Yetur Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd. Like, man, oh man, oh man. Like, I want to give myself some Jordan Birch, Walter Nolan, Mike Green. Like, I don't think this team really needs to address the interior offensive line until third round. I think that's okay. Like, there's some guys you like there. A lot of tackles in this class can be slid inside that no one's really talking about yet. And so I think that this team is going to go defense in like 6 or 7 of their 10 picks this year. I would not be shocked if 3 or 4 of them are on the defensive line.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Free agency is going to be here sooner than we can sneeze. And I'm cautiously excited because the Niners can either be really active with a bunch of people, like you said. I think that the latter route, like doing that, is probably your best bet. But I'm a little down on the Joey Bosa signing just because of his health.
Even after Cheryl followed you on Twitter, you don't want it?
I do it. That's true.
You're gonna make her unfollow.
She's gonna unfollow me immediately. I just nothing personally. You just worry about his health. I mean, yeah. Nick got dinged up last year. I just who knows? Some people think he's depreciating and maybe he's going backwards a little bit. They say he's really good against the run, so there's that. Hey, if you can get him on a 2-year deal and he just wants to play with his brother, and then you can add depth behind that. And we already have. It looks like we're going to have. What's his name? I know Yetur Gross-Matos isn't coming back, or at least he's not. I guess it looked like maybe again. Those are one of those reports. They have him and they have who else? Who was the other guy? Leonard Floyd. Yeah. Then all of a sudden they have some good depth. But we'll see, man. We're gonna have a couple weeks and then we'll be there. But
can I pitch you a podcast now since Joey Bosa may sign with San Francisco?
What is it? The Bosa brothers have a podcast?
No, it's called Balls Deep in the Bosas.
Balls Deep in the Bosas? Is that the name of the podcast? Or
that's what it should be called. Balls Deep in the Bosas. Or
Balls Deep in the Bosas.
Or Bosa Bros Go Balls Deep. I'm in. Count me in.
I'm totally in. I'll have to pass that by Cheryl, though, because I'm not sure if she would be okay with that. But everybody, thank you for coming through. A lot of people were on X tonight. I appreciate that. Sterling does too. You can find Sterling Bennett on YouTube, 49ers Access. He puts out content constantly. I'm a little bit iffy in the off season here. I go where the wind takes me, but I can't wait to start doing stuff more regularly. But for everybody who was here tonight, appreciate it very much. Dre Area Sports is in here too. Go check out his YouTube channel. He's fantastic. I'm glad I got a chance to meet him too. And everybody have a great rest of your night, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.